where you're actually seeing a few people call this out, and the ACLU been people been calling them out on Twitter/X for since the beginning, October 7th. I guess they're finally taking action.
I'm shocked.
I'm shocked too. While I was doing my research, I found this. I was like, "Oh shit, there they are!" Because that was one thing I was about to say when I did segments. Were the ACLU? That's what I said a few weeks ago. Yep. It took them long enough.
Yeah, fire has become what the ACLU used to be in many respects.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you think?
I tweeted at the New York Civil Liberties Union when Richie Torres blocked me because it's illegal for a representative who uses a social media handle for campaign purposes to block ordinary citizens. That is some sort of violation of their oath of public records or whatever it is. But I DM'd Glenn Greenwald to see if I was right about that. I just sent him the tweet and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And he messaged me back. He says, "Yeah, no, you're right." And then he retweeted it, which means that got like a few 100,000 views. And I tagged the New York Civil Liberties Union in that tweet. And that made millions of impressions, I think, that ended up. So they definitely saw it. They didn't respond. Nothing. I DM'd them. I said, "Hey, do you guys give a shit about this?" Because in the tweet, I quoted their own language saying, no, actually, elected representatives cannot block citizens if they use their social media for campaign. They never got back because, they've been so unbelievably partisan the past few years. And so, this is pretty surprising.
Yeah, after Charlottesville.
Go ahead, Russell. My bad. Go ahead.
After Charlottesville, that was it with the ACLU. They had a lot of the lib donors lean on them. And that's it. I'm very surprised at this. This is what's been remarkable about Gaza. You're finding allies where you didn't expect them, and you're finding enemies where they shouldn't be. It's really a mask-off moment.
That is very true. That is for the ACLU, just a sort of idea to throw out there. Do you think they were slow to move because of the Israeli lobby reached out to them and they just weren't able to eventually convince them not to come out in this way? Do you think at all? Because I'm just thinking because the Israeli lobby has their hand in damn near everybody, and damn near the NBA team is going to have the Israeli flags on them pretty soon. So I'm just wondering, I wonder if they reached out to say, "Hey, don't do this," or "Hey, make sure," and then they finally said, "Nah, we got a name to uphold at least. If we don't do something on this with babies dying, then people are really going to know that we're in the toilet." And I think maybe that could have been a factor. But go ahead, Nick.
So this is what the ACLU said. Once again, I'm shocked because I've been saying for the last few weeks, where the fuck the ACLU? So I was doing my research on the story. I found this. I was like, wow, shocking. So I guess that there's so much going on. And like CJ said, the reason why they're so late is because of the pressure. But I think they realize that there's such a big event and the public opinion is shifting against Israel to the point that this will be like if there wasn't a move that the ACLU made that completely ruined their legitimacy, completely among the normies, right? But this will be it, right? That is my only guess, is that they made a calculation that they can't get away with this and it's just as an organization. So this is what they say. This is good stuff. The ACLU defended students' right to use the term such as "from the river to the sea," a slogan used by Hamas, designated by the U.S. as a terrorist group. So, all right, so I'm going to tell you guys, as someone who's been covering this story for more than 2 months, someone who's been around the Palestinian community for quite some time, this has been a chant for years. That's why this psyop is so weird. I knew about the chant for a long, long time. It's weird that this chant went from overnight, no one gives a fuck about it, from the river to the sea, from the river to the sea. I heard this chant all the time.
Nick, the chant was started by Israel.
Right.
Israel used to say "from the river." They got it from Israel, Nick, and they I guess you could say co-opted, and then they didn't like it, I guess. But yeah, it started. Israel used to say that.
Yes. Yeah, the point is always been a thing, but now people try to pretend they are offended by it. That's why I knew it was a psyop. That's why I'm glad that ACLU is saying that specifically. And they said supporters of Israel say that means wiping Israel and its people off a map. Once again, if they are in the right, if they are the honorable side, why do they have to lie? So does wiping Israel off the map, That does not mean that Jews cannot live there. And they constantly lie about this. Free Palestine, one state solution where everyone had equal rights under the law. Ooh, scary.
Right.
You know who's gonna die? The people who fight against that. That's their damn fault. That will happen when you oppose freedom. But Key, I didn't want to chime in for free.
No, I think you're 100% right about why they chimed in. Because the issue became so big that I think they realized they were going to have to say something, right? Like an issue this big, the ACLU can't be silent. And so once they realize they have to say something, then it becomes a question of do we come out on the wrong side of free speech and totally tank whatever credibility we had with anyone with half a brain. And I think they probably realized that they couldn't do that. And so that's why I think they chimed in here.
So I'll just read the last quote here because this is good. There's no controversial speech. This is the ACLU. There is no controversial speech exception in the First Amendment. Right wing, need you to understand that. The First Amendment and the principles of academic freedom require higher education institutions to safeguard all protected speech, even when that speech is contentious or offensive. In fact, this First Amendment exists to protect exactly this kind of political expression. Why do the ACLU have to explain this to these children? Why do we have to explain this to these children? Therefore, phrases like from the river to the sea, no ceasefire, make America great again, and no justice, no peace are protected. How fucking broken brained is our society that we had to say this? But I think someone will chime in. I can't see who wanted to chime in for free.
Yeah, this is what they've been doing for years. They've been conditioning people and preparing people for the idea that speech is violence. That was always a very dangerous formulation because that was always clearly a pretense for abridging the right to speech because you don't have a right to violence, right? So now if speech is violence, then you don't have a right to speech. That just follows from that. And all of this is really coming to a head here around Gaza. This is why, and I think I've said this on the show before, man. You got too many people who identify as left, and this is where I respect my communist allies. You know, people who come up on ideas like the Long March and 1917, you know, they don't tend to be safetyists. They understand fighting and sacrifice and hardship. Too many people who are attracted nominally to the left, and I use that term very broadly, they're fucking pussies, man. They're a bunch of milk baby motherfuckers for whom when you say to them, this is a threat to your safety, they go right in for that. They go right, oh, this is a threat to safety. Oh no, we need to be protected. This is how you wind up with absurdities like claiming, and you'll appreciate this, Nick, being an MMA fighter, whatever you do over there, claiming that working out is right wing. Claiming that being healthy is right wing. It's all part of that. It's all encouraging people to be infantilized, to be incapable, to be afraid. This is something that the conservatives are right about. They do, if you look at the kind of psyop that they're running, and you will see, it's usually people on the right who will point this out, but they're not wrong. They want people weak and frightened because that puts them in a very vulnerable state. That makes it much easier to manipulate people. They don't want you working out, and they want you to be afraid of speech. I mean, you're seeing them directly trying to make that kind of formulation, that speech is a right-wing thing. You're actually seeing them say things like that openly. Free speech is a right-wing thing. They've spent years, basically, it's just a psychological conditioning technique. They've been conditioning people to the idea that anything that is called right wing, anything they call right, is dangerous. It's a danger to your safety. We need to protect you from it. Now, once you've really convinced them of that, then you just call anything you want them not to support right wing, like speech. Now it's right wing. Health. It's right wing. Working out, it's right wing. Just call it right wing.
Yep. And the establishment is really good. These psyop campaigns, both parties endorse it. You have the left and the PNC left that is tricked into not supporting something because it's right wing. Meanwhile, you have the right people on the right who are tricked into not supporting something because it's communist. If you're something bad on the right, it's communist.
Yes. Yes.
And the Kwame Ture has a great joke where he explained many times before that many people on the right pretend to hate communism and socialism, but these motherfuckers love to collectively bargain. Right. So they just taught that these people are just bad. Like the same thing you said, Russell. I 100% agree with what you said, but that also applies to this a general propaganda trick. But they just pick a word is bad. Hamas is bad. So just turn the brain off of here. But I decided to cut another part because I went really long for that segment. I'm gonna save another part because I'm gonna.
I actually have.
Go ahead, CJ. I'm pretty much.
No, I was gonna say I have a couple of receipts for this one. I have a couple.
Yeah, go ahead,
CJ.
I'll pass to you, General. I went really long. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah. So and then we'll get into some of the other topics, but because there is a little bit more that I want to make sure we get in here, because there is more backlash from Harvard or for Harvard. Anybody that's pro-Palestinian. This is Barstool Sports CEO basically saying literally saying, let me play it. It's only a minute.
I'm so glad he found this. Can I just preface this for 1 second because I see what you're covering?
Yeah, go ahead.
When it was revealed, and it won't be long, I promise you, it won't be long. When it was revealed that a Harvard professor wasn't going to be fired, I was on Twitter when the announcement broke, and there was a searing, white-hot flame of rage by the entirety of the right-wing Twitter. How dare our cancel culture campaign not work? Anyway, that's my preface. I didn't even funny. I'm glad he found the clip because I wanted to put that on there by the time. So go ahead. Let's continue.
This is him basically throwing a tantrum, being upset, and let's listen.
You will not hire anyone from Harvard, UPenn, or MIT until the school's dean step down. Has anyone from these schools applied to work with you?
Yeah, well, first of all, we already have Harvard grads, so they're grandfathered in. But in the Penn dean, President McGill, she stepped down. A lot of people reached out, but I think it's not only me. I think a lot of leaders have to do it. It was disgusting what those deans and presidents did under oath. It makes no sense to me. I don't know how, if you can't condemn genocide, I don't care whether we're talking Jews, Muslims, any group of people, then you don't deserve to be, in a position of power. You got to get out.
What about?
Is that right? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
We're gonna have to use this tomorrow. We're gonna have to use this tomorrow on our show because I didn't see this. Is that right? So, are you banning Israel supporters from your company because Israel's the one committing genocide?
Perfect.
So, are you gonna send out an email? Hey, by the way, who supports Israel? If yes, you're fired. Is he gonna send that email out? He's saying, I don't care. If you support genocide, there's no place for you at my organization. I don't care whether it's against Jews or Muslims. Well, there's actually a genocide against Muslims happening right now. So why don't you ask people in your organization whether or not they support genocide? I don't know what that has to do with. What does he do? He talks about pepperoni pizza, this guy. What the fuck is Barstool Sports? I don't know what the fuck it is.
I looked it up myself because I tried to figure
pizza,
out what
right?
it was. And it says it's like maybe it is too, but he owns Barstool, right? is a vlog. It's a blog. Right. And it has different shows and stuff like that on there. It looks like a right
wing. The guy with the pizza. This guy doesn't go into pizzerias.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe he does that too. Maybe he does that too.
He does that too. I thought he was a pizza guy.
Let me let him finish, and then I got another couple of receipts here.
Yeah, listen. Is Hitler allowed to say, I want to kill the Jews, I want to kill the Jews, I want to kill the Jews, right up till he kills the Jews? I would say no. That's what they're saying you can do in this country. There's a difference between
you can
speech and hate speech, and when you're endangering people and causing harm, I think you got to put a stop to it. It's called common sense.
Okay. He sounds like a shit lib.
Yeah,
that's the same argument that shit libs are using. There's a difference between hate speech and free speech. That's the same argument.
Yeah, it's absurd.
And I'm gonna pass it to the Dissidence boys, but this is why I say when capital has as much power as it does in our system, the capitalist system. There are different variations of this, but when you have capital that is this powerful and this entrenched, this is why capitalism is inherently not friendly to democracy. Because even if you have a popular uprising, what happens when capitalists decide as a whole not to hire? You got hundreds of millions of dollars being pulled from Harvard because they're allowing free speech. You guys see how people who have capital, not the workers, you're not a capitalist, you're a exploited worker. You understand? You're not a capitalist. You think you are. You're not. The people with capitalists control politics. They influence very powerful institutions with their donations. They can threaten the future generation by saying they won't hire them. You guys see the influence of capital that destroys democracy and freedom of thought? But let's continue, or anyone else will chime in.
Well, I just wanted to chime in real quick. So I looked it up. He does have, as you can see on the phone here, on Barstool's, there's a whole page devoted to pizza reviews. So he does pizza as well. Just want to clear that up for the,
he makes
haters
pizza,
and the losers who made fun of me in the chat for thinking it was about pizza. He has a whole section devoted to pizza. I know this guy reviews pizza. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that was a thing. You get paid to review pizza. That's That's sort of weird, but
it's not all they do apparently. But it's a whole. They
branded out, man. I thought they did sports too. Like I think they still in the game. He branded out to a ton of stuff. But go ahead.
It's a whole gumbo of a mix of things. This clip here, Glenn Greenwald posted this clip. This is a professor of Yiddish, I believe he says. This is Ruth Wise, professor of Yiddish at Harvard. I'm not going to preface what she says. Just listen.
And you will say, what? You want us to make you look good? That's not my job. Your job is to make us look good. Our job is not to make you look good, American Jews. What do you have to worry about? Your job is to make...
What do you have to worry about, Keaton and Russell? That's not your job, is to make them look good, Keaton and Russell.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm going to let it play some more, but go ahead if you're going to chime in.
This is making the vein pulse in my temple, man. Like she's triggering me. There's a certain type of person that triggers me. This is the type. She's triggering me.
She doesn't remind you of like a Yiddish teacher as you were like 5 or 6 years old or nothing like that. That was kind of mean like this, or had the same haircut or something like that.
If my grandmother had politics, my Jewish grandmother was not a political person. She didn't follow it at all. But if she did, and she had lousy politics. This is what.
There's like the old biddies who taught Hebrew school, and I didn't like it then. That's why they had to kick me out. I became such a disruptive presence. It was just impossible for them to run the class without letting me go. I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. I never liked these kinds of people.
Let me see. Here goes let's play it from the beginning again. I'll let it play. I'll try to let it play all the way through.
And you will say, what? You want us to make you look good? That's not my job. Your job is to make us look good. Our job is not to make you look good, American Jews. What do you have to worry about? Your job is to make us look good. And here's how you do it. Every one of us has to serve 3 years in the Army, 2 years in the Army, some of us 5 years, and then for the rest of our lives, you have got to serve 2 or 3 years in the army of words. You've got to learn to fight the political battle, which is even more important at this point than the military battle that we are. We'll fight the military battle. We're not asking you necessarily to come and be lone soldiers, although some of you can. You've got to learn how to fight back on the campuses, how to make the arguments. Now they keep shifting. The ground keeps shifting under us. They keep changing the language. Intersectionality wasn't even a word 10 years ago. Now suddenly it's intersectionality. You've got to stay on top of it. And you know how we train for the Army? We don't train for defensive warfare. If the war against Israel ever had to be fought on Israeli soil, do I have to tell you? It's an impossibility. So it's the same thing. Don't let the war of words ever be fought about Israel's nature. Let it be fought about why you can't accept Israel, why you have to single out this tiny people. Try to find Israel on the map. It's hardly there. We used to play this game, Where's Waldo? Where is Waldo on the map? Are you going to really tell me that this is the country you want to blame? Push them, teach them how to defend.
Dude, that's
by
so easy to
attacking.
destroy.
Teach them really what one says, as in fencing. You've got to.
Crazy. Go ahead. If you want to chime in.
Sorry, let it
play.
almost done. Yeah, it's almost done.
You've got to make demands on them. They've got to serve for 3 years in the army of words.
I mean, they obviously designed this whole thing to trigger Russell because they obviously looted that furniture from Russell's grandmother's house. No matter what they're sitting on, they don't have stools there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on the end. I thought it was over.
No, I think the other guy, he speaks in another language, so
okay,
we
can
move on. But go ahead.
What you said is so easy to dismantle. Like, are you serious? You can really give him bad advice to future Zionist propagandists, because if a Zionist asks you that, if you get this, because they actually do this all the time, that's how I know how to beat it. Why are you so worried about Israel? Why aren't you worried about this? For one, that doesn't work because I am worried about everything, so that doesn't work. And if they do hit you with that, and you're not engaged on the other issues, we fund them. That's why.
Right.
They're over. Like, why do you think that's a good excuse? Like, if anything, I am worried about them because we fund Israel. Even if I was the exact opposite the way I am and I hated Hamas, let's say I'm the exact opposite the way I am and I hated Hamas, I wouldn't spend my time to hate Hamas because we don't fund Hamas. It's that simple. So I don't know why she think that was a fucking good point, because absolutely not.